Hey everybody, welcome to Konvos with Kraig. This is Noah Marks, joined with the one and only Craig Paul, and our guest today is Maddie Heisner. She is one of Avery's old roommates. They lived together for 2 years in college, right? One of
Yeah.
her close friends, and I'm happy to call her one of my close friends as well. We've gotten really close as gotten to know Avery throughout our relationship, so gotten to know Maddie through that. And she's joining us today to talk about her life. So give us a rundown, Maddie. You, um, of course, did what 4 years at A&M, right? Did you do all 4 years at A&M? Okay. What did you think?
Um, you want my whole life story?
Tell us
Yeah.
about college. What was one of your
Um,
biggest takeaways from college?
yes, I went to A&M 4 years. I was in a sorority, so that was interesting. Um, Surrounded by lots of girls and glitter and screaming. My biggest takeaways from college. I don't know. A&M's kind of a weird place in my opinion. Like I'm in the real world now and I'm realizing that A&M is kind of a weird place.
I would say probably your biggest takeaway from college is probably getting a college degree. I mean, that would just be my guess is the biggest thing you're taking away from college.
That's true. Physically, yes, that is true. I did get a degree and a job. So that is my biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
I suppose.
But what about I know I had a brain fart. What about like learning about yourself in college and all that stuff? Like
Yeah.
I know it's kind of a personal question, but we're a very personal podcast. So what is your biggest takeaway like that you grown as you well, I guess started your adult life in college at college season with college people in a college town doing college things in a
Mm,
college life. Very
sure.
college.
Yeah. Um, I learned about myself a lot, yes. I think I learned that I don't know. I learned how to manage my time better. I never studied for anything in high school ever, ever, ever. So I learned how to study. That was something that was a first for me in college. And I learned how to stay busy, but not to spread yourself too thin. Because I think coming in as a freshman, like it's very exciting and I wanted to do everything and I said yes to everything every day all the time. So definitely learned how to not spread myself too thin when it comes to like committing to people and things and places to be. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. What let the world know, Maddie, what was your major?
My major was psychology and I minored in neuroscience and sociology.
Gotcha, gotcha. And where are you now? Where has life brought you thus far?
Life has brought me to Austin, Texas. Yeehaw, whoop. Um,
Yeah.
I live in Austin and I'm a behavioral therapist with kids on the autism spectrum. Um, it's very fun most days. It's really exciting. Some days it's very, very tiring, but most days it's really, really fun. And I get to actually do something that I like learned with my degree, which is like how to deal with behavior and why kids show certain behaviors and why they do the things that they do. So I love it. It's a ton of fun. I love my kids. They're great. They're funny. They have no filter, but I love it.
Sweet.
Uh,
What led you to, I guess, psychology? So you went into school with the intention of going into a similar field, right?
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to do child therapy in like high school because I've actually never, true story, I've never had a job like anywhere except for working with kids. The first job I ever got was like a daycare, and my job in high school was working with all the kids at my church, and then my job in college was at an elementary school, and now I'm here. So I don't know what retail and food work is like, but I went into college knowing I wanted to do child therapy. So I wanted to do education and teaching, but then I realized that I don't have the patience for that, and that's too many kids at once. So I went to the psychology route so that I could do like therapy and play therapy and talking to kids who have been traumatized, or in like, my goal is to do therapy with kids from like divorced parents or abusive households. But yeah, I knew in high school when I took AP psychology, I got very interested, and that's what made me want to do all the brain studies.
So it's a lot more, I guess you were saying, compared to being in a classroom, an elementary school teacher with 30 kids or whatever. How many kids do you work with on a daily basis? And are they the same kids, like day to day, week to week?
So it's kind of complicated, but I have like a boss, and then I have a supervisor under my boss. There's like 4 supervisors under my boss, and all of those supervisors have a group of therapists and a group of kids. So I work with like a total of 8 kids, and I just rotate like every day, every couple hours. I do like 2 to 3 hour therapy sessions per kid. But I work with like 3 to 4 kids a day, but it's always the same 8 kids, like on a rotation in this like group of like my supervisor's kids. So I work personally with like 8 kids. There's like 30 kids at my therapy clinic, but I only work with like 8 of them. And I do like, yeah, 2 hour, 3 hour sessions with them, where we do like therapy work and table work, and then like playtime. We teach them how to socialize with their peers, because kids who have autism really struggle with just like social skills. And so we teach them how to talk to their peers and how to talk to people and like ask for help. And we also do like table work with them, which like they don't love, but it's fun. So
Well,
it's
that's cool.
very different from teaching 30 kids at once, because I'm only one-on-one. So it's great.
So on a day to day, you had kind of mentioned you have like a couple hours of a therapy session with one kid, one at a time. What do those therapy sessions look like? And does that consist of like, is that your whole entire day is just one therapy session at a time, or does your day look a little bit, you have a couple different things you do throughout the day?
Yeah. So they're basically, so I work from like 8:30 to 4:30, and um I have like 2 hour sessions like all throughout the day, and that's like pretty much my day. It's like I'll have one kid from 8:30 to 10:30, and then another kid from 11:30 to 1:30, and another kid from like 2:30 to 4:30, like whatever. And it's a little different every day because I have a lunch break. But other than that, it's either like I'm in a therapy session, which is like direct time, it's called direct, or I'm on indirect, which means that I'm preparing like things in the back for kids to do. So, like, for example, one of my kiddos, who's not going to be named, he is learning how to like match pictures with, like, if I show him a picture of a dog, he has to match it to the other picture of the dog in like the group. So I would like, on my like break time that I get throughout the day, if I'm lucky, they kind of just disperse it. I don't know. The schedule's different every day. Then like on my break time, I would spend time like looking up pictures, cutting them out, laminating them, making like a whole matching set for him. Like I do all of that stuff. And then in my direct session, we'll do like playtime with the kid at the beginning to like get to know them until they're comfortable with you and you're like chilling. And then we'll do like table time, which is where we sit at the table and work on things that they're working on, which is usually like, what is this object? Like labeling objects, labeling pictures of people doing actions, like labeling people at the clinic, labeling like emotions. A lot of them struggle with emotions. So a lot of times it's a lot of like, how does this person feel? Why do they feel that way? Or like, why do you feel this way when this happens? And so we do table time, and then we do like more playtime, but it's like structured with peers. So it's like a little like forced peer interaction. And they like have to work on talking to each other and um like asking each other to play, because otherwise they'll just like stand there and stare at each other. So we have to be like, how do you want, like, what do you want him to do? Do you want him to jump with you? Then like ask him. So we have to like show them how to ask for what they want and like communicate. So we do like play, table work, peer work, and then I say bye and I go do it all again with another kid.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so I know you were kind of saying earlier dealing with uh, children with special needs can sometimes be challenging just because their learning progression and lots of things ranging from their social skills to their learning styles and things like that are a lot different than kids growing up in a public school system and stuff like that. But like because that's something that you're passionate about, it's something you want to do, right? So how do you balance like what, especially with where you're at currently versus where you have been at in the past and maybe in the future, like what is the balance between challenge and this is what I'm passionate about, so I'm really enjoying what I'm doing? Like what does that balance look
Yeah.
like right now?
Um, I wish I had like a great answer, but I don't. But like most days, like I would say majority of the days, like I go into work and I have fun with the kids. I love watching them learn. I love watching them like light up when they find out something or talk to me or play with me. Like most days I love it and like I never have like a dull moment. But then I would say like once a week or like once every 2 weeks, maybe there's just a day where like they really struggle to like regulate their emotions, which I love them and I know it's not their fault, but they really struggle to like tell you what they want and how they feel. And so sometimes there's just days where like there's no like communication. And those are the days where I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so I think like the most challenging part is like that I don't know what to do. And then I feel inadequate. And I'm like, oh, like, what am I doing that's wrong? What am like I doing? How am I not helping them in like the way that I need to help them? How can I like make it easier for them to communicate? So on those days, I usually like to ask for a break. And like I think that's honestly the only way that I maintain a balance between like I love to do this and wow, this is really hard, or like wow, this kid is really aggressive, this kid is really screaming, this kid is whatever. um I like have to take breaks. And luckily my coworkers are very like everyone is very supportive of like stepping in when my dog just snored, sorry, stepping in when you need help. But taking like 5 minutes or 10 minutes to yourself is like that is the way to maintain that balance, because most of the time like it's not what you did, it's just that kids are young and they struggle to tell you what they want, but it often feels like you're inadequate. So um definitely taking breaks during the day when I need it and just like sitting down and like regaining my like why I'm doing this, why I want to do this, and like going back in with like a different perspective. So breaks, like a little break to like take a breather. That's how I get the balance and like remind myself why I'm doing it and like that it's just a kid, but I'm still also figuring it out. It's very hard.
Well, you're very early on in your working career, especially post college. So,
Yeah.
to have this much kind of hands-on experience this early is awesome. But you had talked about like your end goal being working with uh, students or children who have dealt with divorce and abuse and things like that in their family. So that being kind of your end goal, like where you want to end up in the future. How often does that how often do you remind yourself of that throughout the day? Because I know for me personally, like where I'm at in my working life right now is like, still like entry level, going through training, like learning things. I feel like I'm in school again. with just like the nature of my work right now. And so where I'm at personally with it, and I'm curious, Maddie, if you're the same way. And Craig Paul, I feel like you're kind of in a similar position, so you can chime in on this too.
Yeah.
But like every single day, I feel like, and periodically throughout the day, I have to look at my end goals and remind myself, okay, like I'm not exactly where I want to be right now, but I know that like putting my best work in now is going to get me where I want to be. So like I just have to stick my head down and do the work. And I know, Maddie, for you it may be a little different because like you're currently in a space that you enjoy. Like it may not be where you want to be, but you're in a space that you have said you enjoy. So like are you how heavily are you depending on that reminder of the future? Because in your field, like it's tough, it's difficult, difficult in ways that I'm not dealing with, and Craig Paul's not dealing with, in the same way that your difficulties are very, different from ours, and something that you may not be completely familiar with. So it's different person to person, but how heavily are you depending on your future? Like how often throughout the day are you having to say, okay, like doing this is going to get me where I want to be, so I have to do it. Is that like what your breaks consist of sometimes?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely like what I want to do, I'm gonna have to go back to school for. Um, so I don't know. I think a lot of times that is a very good question because I don't really think about it often. I like don't really think about it all that often because right now like isn't where I want to be technically. Like I don't want to do behavior therapy forever. I don't, but I enjoy like every day. And my goal when I set like a long-term goal for myself of like doing therapy with kids was to just like make kids feel supported in a way that like I didn't always feel as a kid, and like kids just don't always get. So like that was my goal, was like I want to make kids feel supported, like I want to make them feel loved, like I want them to grow and like learn how to express their feelings. And like yes, it's not where I want to be, but I am doing that with kids. So it's like I don't know, I don't really think about it all that often because I'm like, well, if worse comes to worse and it happens to be that I'm like in this field of like behavior therapy forever, then eh.
Yeah, that's not a bad place to be. Craig Paul, I know you are, um, I feel like you're so much more of a in the moment kind of guy. Like, hey, if I'm here, I'm here and I'm gonna enjoy it. So
Exactly.
how are you feeling right now with where you're at?
I feel like God's got me in a good place right now. I am wearing this awesome Konvos Kraig hat available on Redbubble. Check it out. But also, on seriousness, I'm in a good place. I'm gonna go back home in January. Taekwondo, chilling and kicking, and it's something I am familiar with. Like being out of college. Well, I'm almost done with college. Hopefully, if I pass the class, fingers crossed. But just being out, being almost done with college completely, going into a workplace I done before, which I'm very familiar with. Also, but transitioning to a larger role in that, when I teaching Taekwondo, it kind of might some of the things you were talking about, Manny, when it comes to helping out kids during that time, going through certain situations in life. That reminds me a lot of Taekwondo when we teach kids who do have who just who are going through a tough time in life, who can really use that support from someone outside their family to look up to and really listen to and help guide them during a tough time. So what you said reminded me a lot of that as I was listening to you. As I was listening, big fellas, today. I wasn't doing much talking. I was listening to because I was curious what Maddie was talking about. But you don't have to be curious about the Bible verse for this episode, which is Ephesians chapter 4, verse 5.
Period.
One Lord, one faith, one baptism. So Jesus, it's God. It's pretty cool. Also, the Houston Astros won the World Championship. Shout out to the Astros.
They sure
Woo.
did.
Go
We
Stros.
love to see it. Something good in sports for
Houston.
us, for Houston for sure. But between the Aggies and New Orleans, we need a little bit of good news. But
Yeah. Aggies need a lot of good news.
we're in rough shape this year, but that's all right. We can. Uh, Maddie, I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about some of your classes. I know, like we had before we started recording, we had talked about a couple classes that you were in, so definitely wanted to hear a little bit more about that. But before that, I just had to share. I was thinking, like, Maddie and I basically lived together for the last year of college. Like, I was over at their house all the time, and I can't like.
Wow.
I'm preparing to ask you this question. I couldn't get the image out of my head at that time. Maddie, what did you do? There was multiple. So Avery and her roommates would cook for each other throughout the week. They'd take days, and I think it was two separate occasions. But there was one time that Maddie set a pan on fire, and almost burned the house down. And there was, I think it was two separate ones, right? When you caught the plate on fire,
Yeah.
put a plastic plate on a hot burner
Yeah.
and burn through it.
I have a problem. Actually, literally yesterday in my new place, our microwave like almost exploded because I put a tamale in the microwave and the corn husk burned to a crisp. And so now my whole house smells like burned fire tamales.
Maybe you shouldn't be cooking if you're almost like 29 kissing. This isn't the first or second time. It's like multiple times.
Yeah. So the one time it happened at the old house where me and Noah lived, no, where me and Avery lived.
Whoa, hold up.
I put oil in a pot and it started a grease fire and the whole pot was like engulfed in flames. Like it was just like woof. And I didn't know what to do and the fire alarms went off and it was bad. Like it wasn't like, oh, a little flame, like blah, blah, blah. It was like bad. Like I couldn't touch it because it was so inflamed. So I threw a dish towel over it and then the dish towel just burned and the flames kept going. So then I had to throw the whole pot outside. So then it was like charred and there was like a dish towel that was charred. And then I put a plastic plate on the hot stove once and so that melted.
Mm-hmm.
And like it,
as plastic does.
yeah, but I forgot. And there was multiple times where I just burnt, but I'm a good cook. Okay, I'm a good cook. I just I don't know. Like it just happens to me, and I don't know. I don't know. It just happens to me, and it's just bad luck. And now I know that you don't need to put oil in the pot if you're cooking bacon.
Well, so Maddie, I know we talked about one of the classes that we talked about before we started recording was psychology of death. It's quite an interesting topic.
Love.
I know. Let's see, what else? You took a wine tasting class, right? Was that your last semester or
hold up.
Was it the fall?
Hold everything. There was a wine tasting class?
Yeah.
So is it just you drink wine and you gotta say, oh, this wine tastes bad?
No, it's great. It has educated me greatly. It is Horticulture 416 at TAMU University with Professor Justin Shiner. He is beautiful. And it is so fun. You get to drink wine every day, 3 wines, and you get to like learn about all the fruits and all the like grape stomping and like what makes wine bad and what makes wine good. And you get little free wine glasses. And sometimes you get food. One time we got brisket and cheesecake. One time we got chocolate. It's so fun. And you get to go on a little field trip to Messina Hoff. It's so fun.
Shout out to Justin Sinel. He's signing it up in that class. That sounds awesome.
It's amazing. And now I like know a lot about wine and I can impress all my friends.
So I'm curious to see how your assignments are on that class. Like, can you give me like as an example if you remember? No, you're saying
we don't have assignments.
You don't. So, Kraig, is it? How do you pass it? How do you
So
fail?
he does,
Be under
maybe I
21?
shouldn't reveal his secrets, but
Please do.
he
He's not gonna see this.
he does quizzes in class, but they're all on Kahoot. And
Shout out
they're
to the hoop.
and it's like a whole like 300-person class, so like it's very easy. And you just have to pass those quizzes, and then he gives 3 tests, but they're all open note, open book, open whatever. So, yeah, it's very easy.
No, I think when I come back to Texas, you mean we need to go track down this class and try it out for a week.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I never got the chance to take it. I always thought about it. But isn't there another class where there's another one where you either learn to make your own wine or you learn to brew your own beer? Is that
Oh,
correct?
I don't know. I would
I
love
don't
to
know.
know.
I thought there was a I thought I heard of a class where you like make your own some kind of alcohol. I can't remember what it was, but maybe I'm just mixing it in with the wine tasting.
Texas A&M is the university for alcoholics.
Shout out to the AAA meetings at Texas A&M.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been looking at some of those like Barstool and Old Row and stuff like that, and they post some of the stuff that goes on campus. It's some whack stuff. Shout out to that guy on campus that picked up the dead bat on Kyle Field near Kyle.
Oh yes, and everyone was really scared that he was gonna spread rabies around all of it.
Oh, I hope they found him. I mean, he needs to get tested. He needs to get checked for diseases after something like that. But
I'm at. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
go ahead.
But I would imagine next day on social media, he looks at social media, sees a video of him holding a bat. He's like, shoot, well, imagine that. Imagine, I don't know, bats, rabies.
I don't know. They sent out a campus-wide email trying to track this dude down. So it's pretty serious, but um, I don't
Speaking of,
know. I mean, his face was on social media on Barstool or Old Row, one of the two, or something like that. One of our uh, campus weirdo crackhead accounts. But yeah, his full face was on it. It shouldn't be too hard to track it down. So shout out to that guy. Well, Maddie, I was really interested to hear about your psychology of death class, or I know we're running low on time here, so either if you can give us like a quick, like big moment or like cool learning point from that class, or if there was another class, like one of your favorites while you're at Texas A&M.
Um, I took a class called Psychology of Drugs and Behavior. That one was really fun. We got to learn about lots of drugs and what they do to your brain and like everything that happens in your body. And it was really interesting. But Sociology of Death was definitely my favorite class. We learned about everything related to death. We learned about funerals and suicide and diseases and all the things. And we had to turn in a lot of papers about like what we think is going to happen in the afterlife. And it was a very interesting class. But my favorite point of that class, this is something I learned. It's kind of morbid, but funerals are very expensive. Like I did not know this, that they are so expensive. Like everything relating to a funeral is so expensive. And I just, for some reason, thought that it was not expensive, but they're so expensive.
yeah.
And I did not know this. And this is like a new concern that I have now is like, do I need a funeral? Like, I don't know.
One thing my oldest brother Caleb was talking to me about what before I left for Disney, like I don't know how we got on this topic. I forgot when we talked about it. It was during the lockdown of COVID.
Mhm.
And one thing we were talking about since so businesses are always open and how regardless of what your business is, if you're in the funeral business, you're always open
Yep.
or in that type of industry because that's something that's always would be a need. But
True.
not gonna lie, that class sounds kind of depressing.
It was okay. Yeah, it really was depressing, but it was also very like
Sounds interesting. It sounds interesting
cool.
and depressing at the same time.
Yeah, it was super. He like my professor, shout out Alexander Hernandez, my favorite professor at Texas A&M University. I took 3 of his classes. He structured the class very well so that we talked about like things that were more sad and then like something that was like really lighthearted. So he did a good job.
It was pretty heavily like discussion based too, right? So it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh well, I think this way, and I'm going to keep thinking this way.
No,
He
yeah,
knew what the whole
everybody,
class was thinking.
yeah, everyone got to discuss a lot.
Mhm.
We got to do a lot of like reading something and then like commenting on other people's comments. We got to do a lot of projects. Like I had to make a slideshow for my parents and like present it to them about like what I want to happen after I die. Um, yeah, a lot of like it was not a traditional like quiz test class at all. Like we had no tests. It was all like discussions and like papers and opinions. It was so good. And like it's very interesting to learn about like how much money goes into all of it and all of the stats. It was very cool. Shout out Alex Hernandez.
Well,
Sweet. Shout out. Well, I do think that we are very close to getting kicked off this Zoom call for running over tonight. So, Maddie, thank you for joining us, and Craig Paul, as always. We love and appreciate your presence. Thank you for everyone tuning into this episode, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
See you, big fellas.
Bye.
bye.